Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. One of the critical questions Israelis are asking themselves this weekend is, should a ground invasion of Gaza happen, or would that be a terrible mistake? There are many in Israel who can see both sides of the question, that it will cause a huge amount of suffering and incalculable losses to the people of Gaza. But on the other hand, they say to themselves, do we have another credible choice? This is a debate that is now being faced by people in Israel. And joining us today to share his thinking on this issue is the former Justice Minister of Israel, Yossi Beilin. Mr. Beilin, let me begin with that central question. There is a debate not just in Israel but all over the world whether Israel should enter and invade Gaza to clear out Hamas, or whether that would be a terrible mistake. Where do you stand on that key issue?
Well, I don't think that there is a debate today in Israel about it. In the past, there were such debates when Israel considered entering Gaza on the ground. But this is not the case today. I mean, I think that today a huge majority of Israelis understand that, regretfully, there is no other option. I mean, I was against it all the years since 2005, when Israel under Ariel Sharon withdrew unilaterally from Gaza rather than withdrawing as a part of the Oslo Agreement and doing it with President Abu Mazen. But today, I don't see any other option. I think that eradicating the leadership of Hamas is a must. We cannot go on and live like that and expect the next attack of savages to our settlements in the south. And I believe that the only way to do it now is a ground attack, while paying the lowest price on both sides, like what we are doing as we speak, safe corridors to Palestinians to move from the north of Gaza to the south and evacuate the Gaza city until peace prevails.
Can I put it like this? Many would understand that Israel wants to completely eliminate Hamas after what you have experienced 7 days ago at their hands. The problem is, an invasion of Gaza would inevitably mean the killing of perhaps tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. There are the young who can't go because they are babies. There are the elderly who are too old. There are people in hospitals who would literally die because there would be no treatment for them. And the safe corridors you talk about are probably not safe, because there are people saying on the BBC that even when they attempted to go down the safe corridors, they were facing shooting, they were facing aerial bombing. So the clearance of Hamas would surely happen at a price that many consider unacceptable.
Well, first of all, I don't think that in these 6 hours they are expecting any bombing on Gaza by Israel. By the way, I had to leave my room just a moment ago because of the bombardment from Gaza on Tel Aviv, and to go to a shelter. But I cannot know what will be exactly the price of casualties. I hope that it will be the minimal price we can, that we are going to be very careful so that the uninvolved people will not have to pay the price for these crazy savage people who acted on last Saturday. But the truth is that when you ask me today, what is the alternative? Is the alternative to say, okay, we have to accept it from time to time? There is violence, and we have to live with it, and there will pass another month or half a year or whatever, and then we will have to encounter another wave? Or should we say, no, Israel doesn't need Gaza and is not going? The current government, which I am opposing, is not intending to get back to Gaza and to rule this place. What the normal thing is to give it to the PLO, to the Palestinian leadership, from which Hamas actually took it.
Can I respond to that question? You began your answer with, what is the alternative? The clearance of Gaza's civilians means you're clearing 1.1 million people, and there's only a 6-hour window for safe corridors. It's simply impossible for 1.1 million to go.
No.
Maybe 10, 20,000 went yesterday. The problem is, if you force them to go, aren't you creating a bigger problem for the future? Hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands will be killed. There will be a sense of suffering and injustice that will linger with them for ages. Aren't you building a bigger problem for the future rather than solving the crisis you face today?
This is not going to be the price. This is not going to be the price. Tens of thousands will not be killed. And I hope that the number will be much lower. And I think that they will not like us because of that. But on the other hand, we are saving their lives.
Forgive me, I don't mean to interrupt, but are you costing them their lives? They believe that you are forcing them through a second Nakba. The first was in 1948, when they were made, as Gideon Levy says, refugees in their own land. Now they're being pushed out even from the refuge they had.
They will be allowed to go back. Nobody is pushing them out of their land. So you cannot even compare it to 48.
But then isn't that my point?
Nobody is going to replace them. This is not the same. You cannot compare the Nakba to what is happening now. What is happening now is bad enough. And it is the last resort for us. We cannot allow Hamas to come back and to rule Gaza. And I believe that if we are freeing Gaza from the Hamas, it's not only for us, but it is also for the people who live in Gaza and have to suffer the dictatorship and the cruelty of Hamas every day.
You say that they will be allowed back at some point. No one knows when that point will be. It could be months, it could be years, it could be decades. But more importantly,
it cannot be decades, because we are speaking about a short war. If we're speaking about hundreds of thousands of soldiers in reserves on the border, you can imagine that Israel cannot afford it to keep them for decades there. So it is a matter of weeks, and it will end.
But when they return, won't they come back with an enormous sense of grievance, a sense of hurt, a sense of injury, and worse still, looking for revenge against Israel for what was done? That's why I say you may solve a problem you face today, but you may create a bigger problem for the future.
I agree with you, but I hope that this will not be the only option. I hope that Israel will be involved in recovering the situation on the ground for the Palestinians with other countries in the world, with the Americans and others. And that eventually, if the new situation in Gaza will be much freer for them, and they will feel that the dictatorship is over. I'm not saying that they will thank us for that, but I believe that even if they hate me today, they will understand better tomorrow that this was the only option also for them.
You said something very important at the beginning. I want to pick you up on that. You said you hope Israel will help them recover. when they are permitted to return. Can you spell out what do you mean by recover? And you said you hope it will happen in alliance with other Western countries. Are you talking about finance? Are you talking about institution building?
Of course. I mean, we are having our relations with the PLO and with the Palestinian Authority. We are having with them the security coordination and many other things. So if there is fire in Israel, they are sending the firefighters and vice versa. This is not the situation with Gaza and with the Hamas lunatics. So once they are not there, and the PLO or the Palestinian Authority is there, of course there will be cooperation and coordination, and Israel will have to help.
You began by saying that you hope, those were your precise words, that when the people of Gaza are allowed to come back to Gaza, they will not have a grievance, they will not have a sense of injury, they will not...
No, they will have. They will have, undoubtedly, you are right. They will have it. I cannot prevent it. If you take me out of home and tell me you have a corridor for 6 hours, I will not love you.
Precisely. And that was what I was going to ask. The hope that you can help them, assuage them, and make them feel that there's no need for revenge is a very small, tenuous hope. Some would say it's almost mythical.
Okay, I don't have the best answer. The only thing I can say, I hate finding myself without answers and suggestions. Usually I can. In this case, my only answer is the answer I hate. And of course, there are very negative ramifications for such an answer. I cannot ignore it, and I cannot deny it.
So then am I right in saying, Mr. Beilin, that this is an issue on which, even though you've taken a stand, it's a difficult stand to take and you are torn apart by it? I heard you earlier on the BBC, which is where I decided I must interview you. Unfortunately, they cut you off before you explained. But I get the feeling that although you've come to a firm position, it wasn't easy, it was difficult, and you are still troubled by it.
No doubt.
So this is one of the most difficult decisions you face.
No, because I'm not a decision maker. Had I been now, as I was, a decision maker, it would have been much more difficult for me. As a private citizen, I can watch the situation and say, do I have a better solution than a ground attack? And my answer is regretfully no.
So that is your position. This may not be the best solution, but I don't have a better solution.
Exactly.
Let me put to you what Gideon Levy, one of your country's foremost journalists, said to me in an interview yesterday. He was speaking to us from Tel Aviv. He said, after expelling forcibly over 1 million people from northern Gaza, if Israel were to then invade, and his precise words were, it would be the worst war crime committed by Israel ever. How do you respond to that view? I know it's the view only of a man and a single human being, but he is one of your foremost journalists, and he's listened to all over the world.
Gideon is one of my best friends. Our views are different. We are coming from the peace camp, both of us. But he declares himself a non-Zionist, and he doesn't believe in a two-state solution. I'm a Zionist, and I believe in the two-state solution. And I don't believe that what he says is right. I mean, the worst could be just to let them stay where they are and to continue the bombardment, as Hamas is doing today on Tel Aviv. We don't want to continue it. We see what is happening in Gaza. Innocent people are paying the price for it. So you may say that evacuate them for a short while is a very tragic thing. But to say that this is the worst thing that was done, it's exaggeration.
My last question. 2 days ago, I believe President Biden, while talking to elders of the Jewish community in Washington, categorically said, Israel must observe and follow the laws and rules of war. Those were his words. 24 hours later, while standing beside your Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Secretary of State Antony Clinton said that there must be no killing of innocent civilians. Again, those were his words. Was that not a sense of caution, politely and gently delivered to Israel? Think very carefully about entering Gaza. You could be causing a loss of life that maybe your friends and allies would find difficult to endorse or ignore.
Well, I think that we are that we are taking it into account very seriously. And what we are trying to do, including this corridor of today, is part of the efforts not to breach totally the international codes and laws. Is it 100% according? I'm not in a position to tell you right now. We will know it after the war, maybe. But I'm glad that the Americans said it, and I'm glad that the Israel government of today listened to it carefully. Whether it implements it fully, it's another question. I cannot say. I hope so.
My last question, when do you think this entry into Gaza, what the press calls the invasion of Gaza, will actually happen? There are some reports that it's being deliberately postponed.
It was deliberately postponed for sure, because theoretically it could happen a week ago at least. But who am I to know when is it going to take place? And with all due respect, had I known, I would not have told you.
Mr. Beilin, I want to thank you for doing this interview. And in particular, I want to thank you for having agreed to do it literally at 2 minutes' notice. That is extremely kind of you.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.